I was really struck by your self-exile, that choosing to take yourself away to heal and facing and processing the experiences. As you're talking about walking for that length each day, is one of the tools that we would recommend to artists trying to move emotion through the body. Using music and walking and actually kind of letting it move through you is one of the smartest things you could do. But also proactively making a choice that I want to be in the studio making painting at New Year and feeling the glee of your choice is an incredible gift, because that's very similar actually to gratitude practice, which is, people... I do it, but pretty much every leader around the world has some form of gratitude practice, and I think when you've been through something so tough, actually it's a very important route back to yourself, to acknowledge what you want, what you're choosing, because you need a sense of agency, right? To feel that you've actually got something that you're actively pursuing that, is because you love it, not because anyone's forcing you to do it. But I was interested in how you move from that to then bringing yourself into a social space. So how did you decide who you wanted to be in relationship to when you were curating that show?
I think that show had very loose curatorial framework, I would say. For me, it was more of a, who do I have around me that I can bring together? And I think I'd moved through some things, and I think I then felt very lonely. And it was almost like an arts collective more than like a curated, less like the show I'm doing now in Hastings. This was more like an artist collective of people who were giving me conversation and friendship and pooling around me when so much had been pulled away from me. And I wanted to bring them together around me, literally like pulling them around me, like almost like a hug or something. And for a lot of the artists who were in that show, they still talk about it. It's been such a special moment. I think it was just me trying to find support, and the way to find support was to support other people to achieve something together, to make it meaningful in some way.
That's so important. I'm so glad you shared that, because I think that very often artists can tie themselves up in knots in terms of what they give themselves permission to do, and that curating belongs to somebody else, or that you have to have like a highfalutin thesis to do something. But actually, as artists, you have a very, very highly tuned instinct for good quality art and good vibes and good people. And your instinct operates at a very different level. It's like you're the Olympic athlete when it comes to intuition. And so choosing people, people that you feel connected to, that you feel excited by, but actually that you want to lift up, is so rewarding and such a good reason to do a show. And I'm curious, Alexis, what is the work that you included in that? And was it the start of something for you?
People then joked, oh, Alexis just threw in a painting last minute, didn't even think about herself. But actually it wasn't that. It was the paintings I made at New Year. So it was those paintings that I'd made that were in that show. And both of those paintings are sold, actually, and up until sort of the last 5 years, previous to the last 5 years, I'd never sold any work in my life, and apart from those two. So obviously they landed with somebody in a really resonant way, and so I didn't just chuck them up on the wall. They were very much the earthing of the entire idea.
Back to practice and being really present in the work. It sounds like that was a really pivotal moment. So, thinking then about how your work has developed, would you say that the seeds of the sort of the ideas and the concepts that are in your work really kind of took root then?
Well, actually, those roots were there present much earlier. So through the BA, I was making really, thinking back to it now, it's quite frightening, the work I was making during my BA, because my mum had been sick for a long time, and we'd not known. But obviously my body knew, or something in my subconscious knew, because during that time, I was making all my work about the fear of a mother's death. And I was making photographic work. I was doing semi-performance work and then taking photographs of myself in the performative photographs, I would say, in the garden my mother grew up in the house that she grew up in. And I was like dressed in mourning clothes, and I was my poor little cousins who are still traumatized to the day, and I got them dressing up in these kind of like funeral gear. And
Gosh.
but I was making, and I was writing a lot at the time, and my dreamscape, I've never had like Jungian therapy or anything like that, and I don't write my dreams down now, but at the time I was, because they were so powerful and frightening, and they were all about my mum dying. I had no idea she was ill. And this is another reason why, actually, after I graduated in 2003, the work had been so loaded with some kind of premonition or some kind of bodily knowing, some kind of subconscious understanding, like a warning. I actually found I was actually a little bit frightened of the work for a while, and my relationship to the act of making, like what was I doing? Was I, I don't like to use the words channeling or like some kind of other thing coming in, but I can't deny, looking back at that something else was vibrating in my subconscious and picking up on something that was not common knowledge. So I was a little, scared of my own practice. It sounds quite strange.